Kevin Perez, also known as New York drill rapper K-Flock, was born and raised in the Bronx. K-Flock's music is heavily influenced by his upbringing and experiences in the streets in New York City, as K-Flock has already achieved significant success in his music career, with several viral hits and collaborations with some of the biggest names in the industry. However, on his rise to fame, it has not been without its challenges, as K-Flock has now faced serious legal issues and run-ins with the law that could now sentence him to life in prison, as the New York drill rapper was not only looking at facing life in prison for the passing of Oscar Hernandez, but has now been slammed into the 40-page indictment on Rico charges alongside 7 of his best friends. While everything's happening so fast, we've received exclusive footage of K-Flock inside of jail, reacting to all of this new court cases he is now facing. But first, it's important to know the entire story of his legal issues. As the new court files read, on December 23rd, 2021, New York rapper K-Flock, otherwise known as Kevin Perez, was involved in a situation leading to the passing of an Uber Eats driver who was also described as a hardworking man named Oscar Hernandez, as explained by his parents. On this day, Kevin Perez, aka K-Flock, was seen walking down the street in New York City, alongside his sister as well as one of her friends. From the photos you see here, K-Flock is wearing a $5,000 outfit that he was flexing on Instagram Live earlier on in the day. K-Flock is seen walking past a barber shop with 2 other individuals, but making sure he kept a good eye on what was going on inside of that barber shop. With K-Flock staring inside of the barbershop, he then walks right past. But while walking away, a man named Oscar Hernandez is seen then walking out of the barbershop as he noticed K-Flock walking by. Hernandez is seen stepping out of the barbershop and then screaming to K-Flock on the street. He says, "Hey, what are you looking at?" Now this causes a small argument brewing up between the two on the street, with everybody in the surrounding area just watching these two argue on the sidewalk. Hernandez and K-Flock are face to face arguing, but it wasn't until Oscar Hernandez made a motion to where he tried to grab something from out of his waistband. While doing the motion, this is where K-Flock is seen on video pulling out his firearm from his waistband, getting ready to defend himself, and not only himself but as well as his sister. Now Oscar Hernandez never actually ends up pulling out his firearm. Instead, he tries to turn away and starts sprinting towards the barbershop to get out of the way of K-Flock. But while sprinting away, K-Flock is then seen on surveillance using his firearm towards Hernandez, who would then sadly be affected. Now Hernandez later then passed from these injuries at the local NYC hospital. All that was left at the scene of the crime was shell casings as well as Hernandez's slides that he was wearing on this day. After the crime was done, Kevin Perez alongside his sister and friend were then seen sprinting away on foot and ducking into a nearby alley before allegedly being picked up in a vehicle and driving away. With everything happening so fast, no one in the surrounding area could get a good image on what the suspect looked like. This is when the NYPD would go to the surrounding surveillance cameras and then get photos to post to social media. With these video clips they found from the incident, they would post it on their Twitter account, asking everybody in New York City if this man looks familiar. And remember how I mentioned earlier how K-Flock was flexing this $5,000 outfit? It wasn't long until K-Flock's name was being tagged in this post by thousands of people. With the NYPD now knowing who the suspect is, K-Flock would then turn himself into the NYPD and would also hire one of the greatest lawyers in New York City. Now K-Flock would then obviously be arrested as he turned himself in. He was sent to Rikers Island jail, and him and his lawyers are now doing anything possible to have him released. While he turned himself into jail, Oscar Hernandez's parents spoke out about the passing. They believe this case was a mistaken identity case, as they described Oscar Hernandez to have no street ties, as he was an Uber Eats delivery driver and a hard worker. With K-Flock now hiring the best lawyer in New York, they then turned themselves in to the NYPD 30th precinct together. His lawyer would then release this statement only a few moments later. Yesterday, I accompanied Kevin, aka K-Flock, as he self-surrendered to detectives in the 30th precinct. correct. Arrangements were made with the NYPD once I learned that he was wanted. As to the charges against him, we have begun our own investigation into these allegations. More importantly, considering the DA's significant disclosure this morning that the NYPD received a tip saying someone else is the hitter, we demanded the DA's office provide disclosure of the videos referenced in the complaint and more information on the tip. We will address bail once we've had a chance to review the case and further investigate the DA's noteworthy disclosure. Now, K-Flock's lawyer was then given all of the evidence that the feds had. He truly believes that K-Flock was acting in self-defense during this situation.
When the guy hits the ground and is found, he's got a loaded that was in his pocket that his hand was on at the time. You know, we consider that to be self-defense.
So he did take him in self-defense.
That's what the allegation is. You know, I don't want to talk too much about the details of the case,
Okay.
but the government claims that he pulled the... But at the same time, the person that was on the ground had his hand on a illegal loaded, apparently about Kevin.
Okay. So without saying too much, you're arguing obviously self-defense. That's the crux.
You know,
of the case.
that could be one of the arguments, self-defense. And I would say to the public, somebody's walking up to you with a loaded, it's pretty clear he's going to use it, with a criminal record a mile long. Do you want to get or do you not want to?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't hesitate to pull the...
If you're a fan of K-Flock, leave a like on the video. I'm curious how many fans are watching today. Now, after this interview from K-Flock's lawyer, the NYPD then released their own statement. Now, the NYPD believe this incident was street-related. This is based on K-Flock's documented affiliation on the Bronx Third Side street team. And it was also documented that K-Flock was heavily involved in street-related acts within his time in the free world in New York. Having a huge name, he had lots of control on situations, but this also made him a main target when his ops would retaliate. Due to those reasons, K-Flock and his lawyers are convinced and are making the claim that this situation was an act of self-defense by K-Flock. K-Flock's lawyers were very positive they would beat this case, and the rapper would have been released soon. Now, this was, however, until a report was released of Bronx drill rapper K-Flock was just indicted by a federal grand jury for a bunch of new racketeering conspiracy charges, also known as Rico charges. Now, this had DJ Academics share on Twitter, feds just unsealed an indictment on K-Flock for a Rico charge. The mandatory minimum if he doesn't beat those charges or snitch is life in prison. He still is facing state charges that has him locked up as well. Pray for him. Now, the news of K-Flock now facing Rico charges hit news headlines fast. His lawyer was quick to release a statement regarding K-Flock and his future, which read, "We're not surprised by the federal charges as we've been defending Kevin's state charges for over a year now. Considering the incident was a clear act of self-defense, it wasn't a particularly strong charge. That it's now being used as a basis for a possible penalty charge is extraordinary. On video, it is crystal clear that Kevin was about to be affected after attempting to walk away from the other person. Only then did Kevin use an item to defend himself from another armed team member who was about to pull a firearm from out of his waistband. The feds are going to be trying everything possible to have K-Flock sentenced to life in prison, as they even went for his co-defendant in the new Rico case, asking for some info. As Academics tweeted, K-Flock's co-defendant Sticky says they came to him and asked him to snitch on K-Flock, and he told them, "No, I'll see you in 30 years," sharing this Instagram photo of Sticky and K-Flock in the streets in New York City. Now, Sticky's actual Instagram caption read, "We did stuff at RL together. Guess we gotta defend our freedom against these people together too. It's all fun and games until these people come." They said, "Tell us about Kevin. Help yourself. 30 years is a long time." And I answered, "Well, I guess I'll see you in 30 years. Now, this is great and bad news for K-Flock at the same time. The great news is his co-defendant is going to stand strong and loyal to K-Flock all the way until the end. No snitching on his part, unlike Gunna to Young Thug in the YSL Rico case. The bad news is, in Rico cases as severe as this one, as of right now, there is only 7 people on the Rico document, but this doesn't mean there can't be more. On average, there is around 15 people in each Rico case. Now, if they're already asking people to snitch on K-Flock, the likeliness of someone snitching is very high. Again, just because he is a rapper, let's compare this to the YSL Rico case with Young Thug. There is 28 total charged on their court document. As of this current moment in time, there is 12 snitches. And also very similar to the YSL case, the feds are only asking for information on Young Thug. The same, however, in this case where they already went to Sticky and asked him, hey, give us information on K-Flock. It proves he's the only man the feds want, and they want to use him as an example to scare everyone else in New York City, which is a very common tactic by the feds. Now, with all of this going on, we finally heard from K-Flock himself. K-Flock was on FaceTime with some of his friends that are living in New York City. How he was on FaceTime is still currently unknown, but sources claim when you have enough commissary money like he does, you tend to get anything you want inside of jail. Now, with these photos of K-Flock on the inside of jail, many fans notice that he looks very worried and almost like he's been crying inside. He's not looking like the regular, confident K-Flock that we're all used to seeing. Now, these photos give us a clear picture on how K-Flock is looking these days and how he feels about his current case. It also shows us what's exactly happening to K-Flock inside of jail.